Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today I'll be playing another premiere draft of The Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. Fear Fire Foes is a completely absurd uncommon. This is one of the best cards in the entire format in my opinion. It can easily wipe out multiple creatures off of just one card, and no matter what, it can clear out at least one thing with that X damage burn ability, so it's really not hard for Fear, Fire, and Foes to just completely change the course of the game if your opponent is playing red-black or red-white or white-black. Any of those color pairs, which are some of the most common and most popular color pairs to be playing, they could have several 1-toughness creatures on board, and this is going to clear out their biggest creature with the X damage and all of their 1-toughness cards with the rest. So Fear Fire Foes is absolutely absurd and an incredible way to start off. I'm going to scoop that up over these powerful multicolored cards, but I think Fear Fire Foes is just as strong of a card, if not stronger, and it only ties us to one color instead of two. For pack 1, pick 2, we have several great options to just stick to red. We have Relentless Rohirrim to have the Ring Tempt Us for solid value. We have Eomer to just get in as a 4-mana 4/4 haste. And we have Smite the Deathless as efficient, cheap removal. I think I'm just going to roll the Smite the Deathless here because it's the only card of these that can fit into every single red deck. There is a blue-red archetype in this format that is focused on casting a bunch of instant and sorcery spells that isn't really going to get any value out of Eomer. Every other red archetype could use Eomer well, but literally every single archetype in red is going to be happy to have Smite the Deathless, no matter what color you're pairing it with, so we'll scoop up the Smite the Deathless there. Pack 1, pick 3, we have a couple off-color cards I think I'll be choosing from here. Breaking of the Fellowship would be fine, but we have started off with two better pieces of removal, so if we get just a couple more, then the Breaking of the Fellowship might not make the cut. The off-color cards that are competing are Gandalf, Friend of the Shire, which is pretty good for blue-red if you have a lot of ways for the ring to tempt you. And then Golem's Bite, which is just a phenomenal, cheap black removal spell that also works as a combat trick, also gives you Ring Tempt You value. Two very, very good cards here. I think I'll go for Golem's Bite, because Gandalf is a little stronger in a deck that has a decent creature count, so that when the ring is tempting you, you are choosing creatures other than Gandalf. And blue-red tends to be a pretty low creature count, so Gandalf might not actually pan out that well for the blue-red deck. Pack 1, pick 4, we've got a very easy Mordor Muster. Love this card a lot. The red-black archetype has a ton of cards to amass onto your Orc Army, so make a 0/0, give it a +1/+1 counter. If you already have an Orc Army, you just make your current army bigger. Really easy to have a super big, super unstoppable, like snowballing creature in the middle of the board when you stack up a bunch of cards like Mordor Muster, so I'm happy to take that here. If we didn't have a Golem's Bite yet, then maybe we could go for like Build a Pony and head towards red-white or something, but I think it's very reasonable to just take Mordor Muster. Pick 5, we now have a Troll of Khazad-dûm, which is one of my favorite land cyclers in the format. I like all of them, I like Oliphant a lot too, because land cycling for 1 mana is really, really easy to do. That is not a restrictive mana cost at all, so these give you great finishers that make sure that they are not useless cards early in the game as well, because if you draw them early, you're not going to have enough mana to get to 6 cards. You can just land cycle them and pretend that you drew another land, so they're good at all points in the game, and I'm a big fan of both of these, the Oliphant and the Troll, but I like the Troll better. Not a super huge fan of Cast into the Fire, not a super huge fan of Orcish Medicine, but those are both certainly playable. The Troll is definitely the premium card there for me. Got two really good black cards here. I think Shelob's Ambush and Sam's Desperate Rescue are both deceptively good. Desperate Rescue is particularly sweet when you have a lot of land cyclers like Troll of Khazad-dûm, because you turn this into a land, then you just pick it up from your graveyard, put it back in your hand, and it's kind of this self-contained engine where the troll gets the land to help you cast the troll, so that's kind of fun. But the Ambush is a deceptively good combat trick, so really could be either of these. I'll go with the auto picker here. I'll go for the Desperate Rescue since we have started off with a troll already. For pick 7, we have a Black Breath, which is pretty good in certain matchups, and it's going to be pretty bad, if not useless, in others. So definitely a coin flippy card. We've got Samwise and Reprieve out of white, which are both very good uncommons there. So I think I'm just going to scoop up one of these. I think I'll go with Samwise. I like the instant speed Ring Tempts You, the instant speed Graveyard Recursion. Samwise can do some sweet stuff, and I find myself cutting the -1/-1 spell more often than not. Pick 8. These are all great white cards. Protector of Gondor, Nimble Hobbit, and Esquire of the King can all do some pretty good stuff in their respective decks. I think Protector of Gondor and Esquire are the best ones for a black-white deck, which is looking the most likely if we get pushed to white, so I'll take Protector of Gondor here. Black-white tends to be about making a bunch of tokens, getting a wide board state, and then maybe buffing your creatures there, so we'll take Protector of Gondor to help do that. Now we'll take an Eastmark Cavalier. These blue or green cards are super good. The Mana Dork would be fine out of blue, but not super exciting to pivot that way. Westfold Rider, pick 10. White is looking pretty open. I'm liking the idea of being in white. Black and red have dried up pretty quickly, but that is kind of just the meta of the format at this point. Black and red have shown up to be the strongest colors by a whole lot. So anytime you're drafting black and red, more often than not, you are going to be competing with a lot of other drafters to try to get enough cards in your deck. All right, now is a pretty pivotal pick, because I think Faramir's just okay. A lot of text on this, but doesn't stack up into a ton of value for a 4-mana 3/3 that often. There are some other cards that I like a lot better because you don't have to jump through any hoops. They just kind of do some great stuff immediately, like Book of Mauserbool and Dunland Crebain. So red, we have Fear, Fire, Foe, Smite the Deathless, and then we really didn't see any red after that. We saw at least like Troll was somewhat late, Desperate Rescue was somewhat late. I think we're trying to hop into black-white over red-white here, in which case we take Crebain instead of the book. But these are the best two cards, Book of Mauserbool, Dunland Crebain. They just give a lot of power and toughness to your board state really quickly. We'll take the Crebain here. Pack 2, pick 2, there's a Torment of Gollum, which I'm a massive fan of, but we do have two very good 4-mana cards already. We could take the Wormtongue instead for another 3-drop. This Faramir is actually pretty nasty. So if your opponent doesn't attack you, then you draw a card. If they do attack you, you make 3 1/1s. So no matter what, that thing is just spitting out a ridiculous amount of value. I'd have to splash it in. I'm not going to pivot to white-blue here. But it's a strong card that could be worth a splash. Yeah, I'll try out the Faramir and see if we get some good mana fixing, potentially. Alright, I'm not going to take the Inherited Envelope over Crebain. This is kind of mediocre mana fixing, and Crebain is just an incredible card, so we'll scoop up another Crebain. The 5-drop Flyer is another solid choice there, but it is a big kind of slow card. Crebain just having so much impact on the game whenever it's drawn is just really nice. Got a Cirith Ungol Patrol, which is a fine 5-drop if we don't have any others, and we don't have any others, so scoop that up. Could have been red-white, got a Theoden here. Could still leave that option open, but 6 black cards to 2 red cards, that feels pretty unlikely. We'll take the Patrol. I'm unsure about this pick. Nothing looks great here. Banish would be okay. Lembas is very filler. Knife Wound is very filler. Bunch of filler mainly. I guess there's an okay Orcish Medicine-y combat trick thing. Yeah, I'm not loving it. We'll say that much. I'll just take a Banish, I guess. Alright, I do love this pack. We have an option between Easterling Vanguard and Haunt of the Dead Marshes. I think both of these cards are quite good. We don't have a lot of legends right now. We have 1 Samwise, and I think we only have like 1 or 2 ways for the Ring to tempt us. So this won't be that consistent in our deck, so I'll take the Vanguard over it. But I think both these cards are quite good. With a decent legend count and with a decent amount of ways for the Ring to tempt you, The Haunt of the Dead Marshes is really nice, so just keep recurring. I'm not going to play 2 Banish for Madoris, so I'll take a Black Breath here, although I'd prefer not to have to main deck that. Take a Took Reaper now. Another way for the Ring to tempt us. Nimble Hobbit's also fine if we can make it a Ring Bearer a lot, but we'll go for the Took Reaper. Esquire the King is pretty okay because it can get you curving out where you go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop. Spit out a bunch of creatures super fast, and our curve looks really aggressive, so I think that's where we're going to get the highest benefit rather than taking the mana fixing trying to slap a Faramir in here. I think pushing into our more aggressive skew and kind of leaning into that should be the best. Now for Wrath, Now for Ruin could be okay for that. Orcish Medicine could also be okay for that. I don't know, I'll take the Medicine. Now for Wrath, Now for Ruin is just really, really bad if you aren't currently on the offense. Alright, we'll see what we get out of pack 3, but the deck is looking pretty solid here. Don't need anything super, super sweet to get going. Alright, what does Sting do? Equipped creature gets +1/+1, has haste at the beginning of each combat, untap equipped creature, so basically haste and vigilance. First strike when blocking or blocked by a goblin or orc. Interesting. It's not bad at all, but he is competing with Acclaim the Precious, which is just a perfect removal spell. 3 mana, destroy whatever you need, and the Ring Tempts You. This card is just like the best common removal spell in the format. It is absurd. We're going to take Claim the Precious. Sorry, Sting. Cool card, but this removal spell is just way too good. Now we can go ahead and take a Haunt of the Dead Marshes. Getting a little more stuff where the Ring tempts us. This card just coming back over and over and over again. It's just played super, super nicely. It's a very good Ring Bearer as well. It's a nice little 1/1. I like the Haunt a lot. Landroval good too, but again, 5-drops are just in high competition when you get to those higher mana costs. You do not want to run a lot of them. We're trying to keep our curve pretty aggressive. Pick 3, Claim the Precious. Come on in. Slam dunk right there. Mirkwood, Bats, and Now for Wrath, Now for Ruin could both be fine in here. Those are kind of our only options. Honestly, I think I would probably end up cutting either, because we've got so many solid 4-drops and non-creature spells, so I'm just going to rare draft Galadriel. That could be wrong, but joke's on you, I have a Galadriel now. Now we've got a Protector of Gondor or a Landroval. What are the odds of one of these 2 Landrovals coming back? I feel like one of these 2 should come back to me. So I take a Protector and try to get a Landroval back? I don't know, I think I do value Landroval a lot lower than most players, so maybe they'll scoop it up really highly and we won't get one back. I guess we'll find out. East Farthing Farmer's a fine 3-drop. We could also go for another Sam's Desperate Rescue. I'm going to go for the East Farthing Farmer, though, and help our curve out. Help more efficiently go 1, 2, 3 more often, and pressure our opponent really early in the game. Gothmog is ridiculous, especially in this deck with 3 copies of Protector of Gondor to have 1/1 human tokens with Death Touch too. Super happy to take Gothmog. Another Easterling Vanguard or an East Farthing Farmer. I am not a huge fan of Fog on the Barrow Downs, and now that we have 2 Claim the Precious, I am highly unlikely to run even the first copy that I've taken. Got 6 2-drops already and just 3 3-drops, 6 to 3. We'll go for the Farmer there. Well, if I find more 3s, then I'll be unhappy about that. I probably should have taken the 2-drop just because it was more likely that we get a couple more 3s later in this pack, like an Uruk-hai Berserker now. Alright, we did get one of the Landrovals back, so that makes me happy. We could take Shire Terrace or Shire Scarecrow, but I'm thinking this deck is looking aggressive enough to not want to splash around for Faramir. Just keep our mana consistent. Escape from Orthanc is perfectly reasonable as a combat trick. Hold down the Alt key to see how many I own of all this, and just Rare draft something I don't have a playset of yet. Do it again. And what is our last pick? Is it going to be anything viable for our deck, or just something random for the collection? Honestly, either way is fine. Lothlorien Lookout. Okay, something I don't have a playset of. Let's go. Alright, here is our deck right now. We're at 47 cards. We've got 7 we can cut. We're at 19 creatures right now, and we might have some non-creatures that are basically creatures like, yeah, Mordor Muster adds to that creature count. I think that's it. So we're basically at 20 creatures. So the standard 15 to 17 going on here. We cut 3 creatures and then a bunch of non-creature stuff. Let's drop some stuff focused on the curve, I think. Which I might want to keep pretty low. Gothmog is basically just a better Protector of Gondor here, so 4 drops might be a tiny bit high. We might drop 1 3-drop, 1 4-drop, so drop a Farmer. Drop a Protector of Gondor. And here's where we do get punished for one of those like minor decisions earlier, where I went for East Farthing Farmer over another Easterling Vanguard. Because I think they're somewhat comparable in how well they're going to play on the curve. But had we had another Easterling Vanguard, we could have cut like an Eastmark Cavalier here instead of a Protector of Gondor Farmer, and that would have been a significant improvement in our deck instead of a slight improvement, because Cavalier doesn't really do anything, except that it's a 2-drop on curve, which is good for us. So, yeah, it would have been nice to have another Easterling Vanguard. I think that was not a great pick for us. Honestly, I might just be keeping the curve low here and not being super worried about the big finisher kind of land roval thing. Could drop that out. It's a 5-mana 3/4. It's pretty good on the aggressive, but we can try to just blow some stuff up with Claim the Preciouses and all that. Might not need to be trying to fly over things. I feel like Patrol feels a little better than Landroval, because it's much better on the defensive. That might be something we're more looking for in late game plays, like if we make it to that much mana. Kind of lock up a long game. Yeah, I mean, that seems okay. I could also just drop a 2-drop, but I want to keep that curve. 5 2-drops isn't horrific. Not particularly good, though, for aggro. 4 more cards to cut. Let's cut our weakest non-creature cards, which is probably the Blade. Like, I've got some humans, but I would want pretty much every creature in my deck to be a human for Blade to be good. We are not nearly all the way there. Black Breath is kind of narrow. I'll cut that out. Fog on the Burrow Downs. Yeah, we've got 2 Claim the Precious and a Banish. I think those are both better than Fog. We also have a Golem's Bite still. And then we could cut one of our combat tricks between Orcish Medicine and Escape from Orthanc. Medicine spits out a token and combat tricks, which is kind of fancy, but it is twice as expensive as Escape. I could really coin flip between those two. I think they're both reasonable. Neither of them are incredible. Neither of them are horrible. I think I'll just cut the Escape and get another quote-unquote creature into the deck with the Orc Army token, potentially. And this looks very reasonable to me. We could get a little bit slower. We do have a Troll of Khazad-dûm kind of making us like an 18-land deck, so I could like cut out a Cavalier here and put Landroval back in. That seems fine to me. But I am very disappointed in the lack of a second Easterling Vanguard. I think that was one of our biggest missed opportunities in the draft. Overall, this deck still looks very solid, and I'm happy to be where I'm at with it. So I think we'll call it a deck there. Alright, here we have a look at the deck list for today. Just a nice aggressive black-white deck here. We've got a little bit of token synergy going on, but for the most part we've just got a solid curve of creatures, some great removal spells, some very traditional limited stuff. We've got the Corbanes getting the board state wide quickly, Protector of Gondors and Gothmogs doing the same. We have Esquire of the King to buff the whole board if it goes wide, which is pretty powerful. Again, a nice consistent curve of creatures to do all that stuff. Samwise the Stout-Hearted is pretty great with all these expendable creatures with good enter the battlefield effects. We can trade off a Corbane or Chump Block with it, then bring it back, replay it, get some great value there. Really solid removal with 2 copies of Claim the Precious being excellent removal. Golem's Bite being fantastic as well. Banish is a bit more on the filler end, but it should play fine in here. And we've got some good ways to grind out a longer game for some value with Seerth Ungol Patrol, Sam's Desperate Rescue, and of course Samwise himself. So some really solid stuff overall. Kind of a mid-rangey deck here. It's on the aggressive end for sure, but we've got those kind of late game value things that we can be doing to try to grind out longer games as well. So looks like a pretty flexible, pretty powerful deck, and I'm excited to see how it does as we head into the gameplay. Here we are on the play for game 1, and this is an excellent keep. We have plenty of castable spells here, 3 of them, even if we hit no lands, and all we need is a single swamp, and the whole hand is castable, so very into this hand. Alright, we have hit our 3rd mana. If I didn't hit a land this turn, I'd be relatively interested in Mordor Muster to draw another card and help guarantee that we keep playing solid spells up the curve, but since we hit the land drop already, we can start with Westfold Rider and follow it up with the 3-drop East Farthing Farmer. Then turn 4 could go Mordor Muster and Samwise if we find land 4 off of the Mordor Muster. We are playing against Black-Red, which is kind of the deck of the format, the deck to beat, the most popular and most powerful archetype. Play around any instance. If they're going to have to use a removal spell on Westfold Rider, that's fine. We'll get them to use a removal spell on our 2-drop. So I'm not going to play around it here. Playing around it would be just attacking with the Rider without casting anything. That way, if they do, I can Samwise the Rider back to our hand. But that would be less mana efficient and a much less powerful play if they don't use a removal spell on Westfold Rider. Alright, well, this is kind of interesting because I could sacrifice the Rider to blow up the Trebuchet just to get it out of the way for our other creatures. Don't feel like I really want to do that, but I absolutely can. I could muster here and really hope to hit a land, but then I don't do anything good if I don't hit the land. If I do hit the land, then I can sack the Westfold Rider and put it back to my hand with Samwise, which would be very good. It's a bit greedy though, because again, if it doesn't pan out and I don't hit a land, I just make a 1/1 and pass, which is not the greatest. I think I gotta go for the best onboard play, which is just clear out the Trebuchet, hit for 2, drop a Corbane. I mean, I could still, like, clear out the Trebuchet, Mordor Muster, get a 1/1 instead of a 1/1 flyer and a 2/2, and then again, big upside if we hit the land. Here's a Torment of Golem, which is going to rip out our best card from our hand and give our opponent a 2/2 to block with. Torment of Golem is a fantastic 2-for-1. We have a lot of great cards in our hand though, so this will be a difficult choice for our opponent, but they are going to choose Claim the Precious. So let's Mordor Muster to make our Orc Army too big for them to trade theirs into. See what we hit off of this and see if that affects combat as well. That does not affect combat, so we attack in with the squad. Drop a swamp so we can hold up Samwise and pass the turn from there. They are down to 8. There's a Dunlin Crebain, so their Orc Army is quite large. We could use that as an upside, turning a 3/3 into a Ring Bearer, so that they could only chump with Crebain. I think that is perfectly reasonable. Yep. Try to keep pressuring their life total here and just get the Ring Tempts You value rather than the reanimation value. Or graveyard recursion value. We do hit the 5th land. We could play the Ungle Patrol or the Banish. Now I could just banish the army, which is somewhat interesting. Then we attack with everybody. They trade into Samwise and take 6. I think I like playing the Patrol and holding up the Banish for next turn, since we already have great attacks with the 3/3, which is our biggest damage dealer here. Get a Crebain trade if they want. It's going to be a Crebain chump, alright. Oh, it might be the ambush for Death Touch and a food token. Card is pretty busted. Yep. Well, that would have been pretty bad for me even if I banished. And we banished the army. Still lose our 3/3. Claim the Precious on the Patrol. They've got 2 mana to eat their food, putting them at essentially 10 life here. Well, we only really have one play. Exile the army. Send in for 5, essentially put them to 5 life, since they gain 3 and then take 5. Right. Yes, from there. In case we get another way for the ring to tempt us, then we have a card to discard to the draw a card and discard a card effect. There's a Mirkwood Bats, that's 1 blocker. Swamp Cycle, a Troll of Cause of Doom, don't like that. That means they probably need that 6th mana for something else. Drawn to a Took Reaper. If I attack with everybody, they can kill Samwise without losing anything, but then they're down to 2 life. I think we need to put that kind of pressure on their life total. Alright, they're at 2, facing 2 2-power creatures. Voracious Fell Beast, we need to hit a removal spell off the top, pretty much. Let's check what our outs here are to win the game. So Claim the Precious would win us the game. Golem's Bite wouldn't get there. I think that's it. If we don't hit like exactly Claim the Precious, then I think we lose here. I'm trying to think if I need to sack Took Reaper to make one of these a Ring Bearer for the draw a card, discard a card. We could make Crebain a Ring Bearer. Try to grind out a longer win that way. I feel like that's what we're supposed to do. But then if I do that and then I top deck Claim the Precious and I blow up one of their blockers, then they don't die. Whereas if I top deck Claim the Precious and I sacked Kerbane here, then they do die. I think that's literally one card in our whole deck. If I draw anything other than Claim the Precious, sacking Took Reaper is better. Alright, what do we got? Land? Alright, draw a card, discard a card. Land, alright. They're essentially at 4 life, so 4 swings from Kerbane will kill them. But 4 swings from their creatures will kill us. That is horrendous. Nice Mythic Rare Uncommon. And we're just flooding out. That probably seals it. All right. 0-1 to start it off. Here we are for game 2 on the play. We're not going to be running anything out till turn 3, but Kerbane is a very strong card. 2 run out on turn 3, and now we've got a Mordor Muster on turn 2, which makes the Kerbane really good, because our Orc Army is immediately going to attack on turn 3, and it'll attack as a 3/3. Muster into Kerbane is a fantastic start. They are going to Forest Cycle a Generous Ent, grab their forest. Pass the turn. Let's drop the Kerbane and smack them for 3. They're down to 17. There's an East Farthing Farmer, just a 2/3 and a food token, so we can attack into that very freely. So now we play a Took Reaper and hold up a Golem's Bite, I guess. Kind of our only option until we find another swamp. And then the world is our oyster. We have so much incredible stuff to do. There's a Rangers. It's pretty big. Gonna have to probably use Golem's Bite as a combat trick to clear that out. Definitely if I don't hit lands. Send in the team. They can have the farmer kill the Took Reaper, but then we beat the Rangers with Golem's Bite. I think that's fine. We could also not attack with Took Reaper. So that's... Oop. That is definitely not what I wanted to target. We could also not attack with Took Reaper. If I don't want to lose that creature. But I think this is a better way to like guarantee the Rangers is killed. And the Ring Bearer value is solid here because if we have the Ring tempt us again next turn, we get to start drawing a card and discarding a card. And having a creature in our grave, make sure we can actually cast something next turn, because if I don't have a creature in grave next turn and I don't hit a land, there is nothing I can cast. But by getting that attack in with Took Reaper, even if we don't hit a land here, I can rescue it and recast it, and then make Kerbane let me draw a card, discard a card on attacks to dig even farther for lands. But we did hit the land here, so now I can just Gothmog and they can double block and trade if they want, or not. Seems pretty good to me. I think they need to just double block and trade here. And that is what they're gonna do. They are down to 11. There's a Brandywine Farmer, just a 1/1. They've got a lot of food, so they've got a ton of life. Sack the Shire Terrace, and they will find another forest. Fifth land, just drop a patrol. Yeah, I don't need to blow up a farmer. And I'd prefer to desperate rescue a better creature than a Gothmog. So here's an Ungol patrol. Mushroom Watchdogs, that'll be very big if they want it to be, but I've got 2 Claim the Precious, so we will be fine. Alright, each one of these food that they spend on the Watchdogs is 3 less life they get to gain. Let's see if they have the Hexproof trick. They do not have the Hexproof trick, and that is pretty much going to be game. They're not dead immediately. They just take 8 damage on board, but they are over it there. They must not have much left in their hand. We are now going to be 1-1 as we head into game 3. Here we are for game 3. This hand is definitely slow, but we're on the draw to try to find some more 3-4 mana plays in the middle. I'm going to keep it here. The mana is looking great. We've got a 2-drop at least. Could fall apart if we just draw more 5-6 mana plays and lands, but most hands have that risk. We'll see what we hit here. First draw is a Plains. We are playing against a black-white deck, so we're on the mirror match. Our opponent's curving out on us, though, on the play as well. Haunted Dead Marshes into Took Reaper, and we have hit land with our opening hand that was already a 4-lander, so it is looking pretty poor for us right now. Still early game, but this is not where we wanted to be in the setup stage. Ideally, we still have one more draw to make it like we never missed on non-land cards. If we draw a 3-drop next turn, then about as good as our setup's going to be in our deck. 2-drop turn 2, 3-drop turn 3. More often than not, that's your average. Alright, they've got a Frodo, and they have the mana to make Frodo a 2-3 lifelink, so they basically went 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop on us, which is really bad. I think I need to preserve life total here and hope to pick up a Claim the Precious to blow up Frodo. So I'll trade with the Reaper. Because we're never going to be able to trade into Frodo, it's going to be a 2-3. Obviously, Frodo's going to be that ring bearer. And that is just 3 for 3 on lands drawn. We'll pass turn. I should have played the Swamp for Claim the Precious, but I don't have it in hand, so I can just play the Swamp next turn anyway. Wait, they didn't level up Sauron or Frodo during our turn. It's interesting. I'm pretty sure they had the mana to do that. Alright, we found a card. We can play an Uruk-hai Berserker, which can't block Frodo because the Ring Bearer. But this is our own level 2 Ring Bearer, so we can draw a card, discard a card when we attack with it. Digging for our outs. Alright, level up Frodo again. Just get to that draw a card, discard a card off Frodo. Sure. Easterling Vanguard. So that is a blocker, a chump blocker for Frodo, if and when we need that. Let's get our draw a card, discard a card here, because we've got way too many lands. Find the Claim the Precious. Absolutely beautiful. Pretty much exactly what we were looking for. Now I can play a Swamp, Claim the Precious on Frodo, and play an Easterling Vanguard. think I'm going to keep the Berserker as the Ring Bearer, so I don't need to play Vanguard first. Because either way, our Ring Bearer just gets blocked by Haunt of the Dead Marshes. Reprieve. Put our removal spell back in hand. Well, I will be playing that next turn. For sure. So, the Ring Tempting them again is pretty good value. It might be worth jumping with Vanguard here, because if they make it to level 4, anything that's a Ring Bearer is going to be a really, really big deal. And if they have the Ring Tempt me one more time, or if they have the Ring Tempt them one more time, then they'll be on level 3, which means that the next spell that they play, where the Ring Tempts them, is immediately just going to give them a level 4 Ring Bearer. Could definitely be wrong, but I'm going to negate the Ring Tempt here. So they still need to play 2 more things to get to level 4. And there's a Kerbane. Find an Orcish Medicine. Which I suppose we'll probably have to play on the defensive to trade Orc armies. Well, trade our Orcish Medicine for their Orc army. I guess I could use it on the aggressive if they just block my Berserker here, because I don't think I'm holding the Berserker back to block. Yeah, let's draw a card, discard a card before we do anything. Another Swamp. A lot of black cards in hand. I could actually use a 4th black source over a 3rd white. Okay, they're just going to let the damage in, so no reason to medicine. I could still just get the lifelink if I really want to preserve my life total. Okay, I do want the 6th land so I can play Troll of Khazad-dûm later, so I'm going to play it here. Plus, if they have another reprieve, I could still play the claim. They might have an Orcish Medicine of their own, though. That's disgusting. Indestructible to Frodo. Also makes their army too big for us to Orcish Medicine to beat it. This is going as poorly as it possibly could. I mean, we could be dead by now, but I just mean things are lining up really, really badly. Just not where we want to see things go. I don't even think there's anything I can do at this point. But I'll do what I can. Gain a little bit of life here, I guess. Frodo is a busted card, Jesus Christ. Card is deceptively good. That lifelink has given them such a massive pocket of life to just never have to block. And we can't trade into it with the higher toughness than power. And the ring tempting them every time Frodo hits us is really good value. It's just been a bad time for us all around. Yeah, I mean, there's just nothing. Nothing to be done. Drop a Troll of Khazad-dûm. Pass the turn. Frodo goes all the way up to level 4 now. I'm actually perfectly happy for them to put that onto the Crebain because we have multiple Crebains in our own deck to pick up. We're already like so lethal also, they don't really need to do that because they can just Denethor us out. Alright, that is certainly not changing the course of the game. 1 and 2 heading into game 4. Here we are for game a lot. Game number 4? Yeah, game number 4. We've got a turn 2 Mordor Muster that we're trying to hit a 3rd land off of, but we're on the draw already, so we have 4 draw steps to hit land number 3. Because we draw on turn 1, we draw on turn 2, we draw on turn 3, and we draw off of Mordor Muster. So we need 1 land out of 4 draws, and we are in this game with some solid action. Well, 0 for 3 right now. If we don't hit a land in 4 draws, we kind of lose. And our opponent's curving out with turn 2 Uruk-hai Captain into turn 3 Crebain, which is super, super good. I might even need to just banish the Captain here before they amass any more. And then claim the Precious the army soon. Yeah, I mean, we're just on the draw here, so we're on the defensive. On the play, I think this would be kind of the opposite, because right now we'd have a Crebain and a 3/3 army attacking into just a 2/2 Moher. Kind of just one of those on the play versus on the draw differences. Yeah, we're on the back foot. Get rid of the Captain. And pass. It's not a good spot to be. Our opponent casts a Quarrel's End to discard a card and draw 2. Sends in for 4, we're down to 13. We miss land number 4. Berserker's big enough to trade into the Orc Army if they don't amass again. Could also Crebain and just Orc Army into Orc Army, and then we also have a flying blocker for their flyer. Again, we're just 1 turn behind because we are on the draw. You're going to be 1 turn behind. Where it's like my play is getting a board state that's as big as theirs, except they get to play a card now and make it a little bigger, and then next turn I'm going to make my board state as big as theirs, and then they're going to play a card to make it a little bit bigger, and we're just always going to be 1 foot, 1 step behind until we take lethal at this rate. Torment of Gollum it is. That is horrific for us. They get to discard our Claim the Precious and make their Orc Army a 5/5, and now we have no way to deal with it. They get rid of Landroval? Well, I guess we're still in the game. If I hit a land, I'll play Protector of Gondor and chump block the army. If I don't hit a land, we have to just claim the Precious. Alright. No land equals claim the Precious. Really doesn't matter too much here. 8 life, I don't think I'm attacking with either of these. If we can survive a long game, we should be at the advantage here. More cards. Alright, Ugluk is chill. So I'm guessing they wanted me to claim the Precious the army to not use it on Ugluk, but I don't know why they didn't just torment the claim the Precious. Because then I just couldn't kill either. Trade here, Ugluk gets bigger. I guess if Ugluk gets bigger, then our Orc Army can pass by more easily with that Ring Bearer ability. Oh, Lash of the Balrog kill our army, sure. Man, we are just drawing like a champion today. 54% of our deck is lands now at this point, with how few we have drawn. Guess I can double block Ugluk maybe? With Berserker here. Nothing to Desperate Rescue. Also draw a card, discard a card, desperately hoping for a land. I think I'm on that double block attempt. Cannot get a flyer out, so I can't not die to 2 damage in the sky. So, I mean, maybe there's some kind of Orcish medicine line. We gain 3 life, block gained 3. Puts us to 5, we take 4. 5 minus 4, we go to 1. I mean, I'm going to do everything I can, but it seems like Arena has just decided we are not winning any games today. This has been a very sad run this time around. I think our deck's super solid. We've just not had our draws line up well in the slightest. Oh yeah, and if our opponent doesn't attack all, then they still find the kill. Alright. That was still my closest line to not dying there, because if I attacked and gained the 3, then they just get past the Berserker and find lethal on the ground. Not much to say about that draft. I don't think there was a whole lot we could have done. There was maybe one of those losses I could have changed around if I played differently. The one line we really went for was Patrol over Banish that one game. Maybe if we banished first and just went for immediate damage, we could have dealt enough to them because they stabilized at 1 life in the end. So going for Banish before the Patrol there maybe makes that game play out a little bit differently. Again, I don't think there were any like full-on punts or anything. At worst, it was a line that would have went better the other way. Definitely no like straight punts or missed lethals or anything on board. Yeah, I think the deck's a lot better than it functioned. Just a combination of bad draws from us and incredible draws from our opponent are gonna find the kills there. Had multiple opponents just go 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop us. We had opponents go 2-drop Menace Creature, turn 3 Kerbane, double up the Amass. It was just a rough day of it. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed this video, you can like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more. You can catch me live at the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below or hit the join button. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.